Hi there, this is Maneesh from PM Pulse bringing to you yet another power-packed episode on PM Ninja video series. In this episode, we are going to continue with the serious inconsistencies and the mistakes which are actually consequently creating a lot of confusion among participants. These inconsistencies and mistakes are in relation to the PMI Approved PMP Preparation Guide. And I've already published a video, Volume 1. This happens to be Volume 2. Keep watching. The more I talk to people, the more I talk to ADP trainers, the more I talk to people who are preparing for PMP exams, and the more I talk to people who have actually undergone training with some of the ADPs, other trainers, the more I'm convinced that hardly any trainer, hardly any person has actually gone into details, line by line, of the PMI authorized PMP guide, because this guide is replete with a lot of inconsistencies. Please understand that this preparation guide was not made by PMI. It has been outsourced. It's not as thorough and it's not as well drafted as PMBOK 6th edition. It was outsourced. And consequently, there are a lot of material, a lot of things in that particular PMP preparation guide which is in variance with the PMBOK. All right, let's talk about the very first one. The first one is how the float is calculated. The very first difference is the way float is calculated. When you start calculation of float, the early start or the very first activity will be 1. Time and date is never calculated in 0. Now, there have been certain books, even in the past, and there have been some trainers in the past, they used to start with 0, right? But that's incorrect. And as per any person who used common sense and basic scheduling, they would understand it cannot start from 0. Now, why do people get confused that it starts from 0? It's because this concept of network diagram is not only used for scheduling. A network diagram is an engineering tool. It is used for a lot of things, right? So over there, when you're using it for engineering, you need to start with 0, because then you're talking about metric measurements. And yes, the measurements will start from 0. They don't start from 1. But the moment you apply this engineering concept into scheduling, you're dealing with date and time. And the moment you deal with date and time, there's nothing known as 0. And that's the reason why in PMBOK 6th edition, the example that is shown over there starts from 1. But cut to the PMI Approved PMP Preparation Guide meant for the 2021 format, you will find that the example over there starts with 0. Now, this confusion existed earlier. Now we are cementing that confusion. Now, when you get a question, what do you start from? And major calculation differences exist. Now, I know exactly what needs to be done if it shows up in PMP exams. Let's talk about the second major catastrophic inconsistency, and that is the way change management has been talked about. Now, change management has assumed a lot of importance in the new version of PMP examination. A lot of questions do show up, and yet in the PMI approved PMP guide for the 2021 format, they hardly cover it. They have made a map, they lightly explain change management. They have a paragraph on configuration item, they have a paragraph about configuration management, configuration artifacts, but that's it. That's the amount of coverage you have. Not only that, they have actually created a flow. They have made a flow diagram about how the change has to be approved, and it is in complete variance with PMBOK 6th edition. But the reason I'm talking about inconsistencies and I'm comparing the two is because not only the ECO, every kind of communication coming from PMI talks about that you have to study both these documents, right? One of them is PMBOK Guide 6th edition, and of course the twin guide, which also has the agile part of it. And the second part is this newly developed PMI approved PMP preparation guide. Now, If the same topics are shown differently, that's where the confusion starts. In the PMI Approved PMP Preparation Guide, they don't even talk about CCB, which is the primary thing. Now, over here, they talk about that certain things can be done by the project manager himself. In certain cases, the project manager, along with a few other people, would have to do that. And in the third case, well, it's just project management and a few other people. They're just right stakeholders. So that's how they have made it. Pretty confusing. You will not be able to differentiate between the medium level change and the major level change and what to do. And that's how people will end up answering the questions wrong, because you are going to get a lot of questions in PMP exams, the new format connected to change management. But the PMI Approved PMP Preparation Guide has hardly any coverage, and it is highly inconsistent with the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Now, I have created in my training a comprehensive flow diagram, which will be absolutely easy for any one of us to actually go through it and answer questions in PMP exams, the real PMP exams. And the third difference is about budget and estimating. As per PMBOK, there are three kinds of top-down budgeting, which are rough or order of magnitude. We can even call it ballpark, which is not a term that they use in PMI. The second one is analogous, and the third one is parametric. But analogous and parametric, they're collectively known as budget estimate. And then on the bottom-up side, you have definitive, derivative, deterministic. I mean, basically bottom-up estimating using WBS. However, if you look at the PMI Approved PMP Preparation Guide, you'll actually come across, they're talking about three common types of estimates. One of them is called rough or order of magnitude. The other one is called definitive, which is basically bottom up. And they have now got a new term called phased estimate. Now, well, phased estimate is something which is not a new term. People have been using it, and it's basically done for agile or iterative or incremental. So you have an overall budget, which will of course have a degree of variance, but as you move into the project from one iteration to another, you will actually have a detailed budget for only the closest iteration or the iteration that you're about to do. And then when you get to the next iteration, you'll have a lot of progressive elaboration, and you can then actually estimate the next iteration that you're about to get into. That's something that you do in Agile. That is something that you do in iterative or incremental. So that's called phased. But even when you do phased, you will either have to do bottom-up estimating, or you would have to do parametric, or for that matter, you'll have to do analogous. So phased estimate is actually not in the same league as a rough order of magnitude or bottom-up, none whatsoever, because phased estimate can be done any of these methods. You can even use a rough or order of magnitude for a phased estimate. Phased estimate simply means when are you repeating the estimates. That's it. So these are serious inconsistencies. But the point is, would anybody tell you that? Again, the purpose of this particular video is not to say, hey, PMI did not do a good job. I'm a big fan of PMI. Everybody knows that. I've dedicated a large part of my life associated with PMI. But the point is, this video is about you, the candidates, and the problems that you're going to face with the new version of PMI because of the content that is being presented to us. And if you feel that this video actually helped you, spoke about the things that nobody's talking about, bringing it out into the open, go ahead and press a like button, because it just encourages me to actually help out more. Thank you for watching, and please do remember to leave a comment. And if you have any questions about this new format, please leave a comment. I will be more than happy to actually help you out there. Take care, keep it real, and keep watching.